Hi everybody. So today we're going to be talking about density, and I'm going to have everything written down on here so you can pause the video if you want to take notes or just to be able to read it and keep up with what's going on. So density is the packing of different materials into one space. So today we're going to be doing the rainbow jar experiment, and we're going to be packing multiple different liquids into one container to see what it does, to find the density of that object. And when you're thinking about density, to be able to find how density is measured, you're going to take your mass of that substance divided by the volume of that substance. So if you don't know those words, I also have those written down. So mass is a large body of matter with no definite shape. So it can be put into any different kind of container, object, anything. It will change. The shape is never the same. It's always changing. And then when we think about volume, volume is the amount of space an object occupies. So think about me right now. How much space am I occupying in this room? So we can measure that. So that's the volume of an object. So today we're just going to be talking about density. And to make it a little bit easier, I figured, look, why not try some density things ourselves? So when you think about density, how about you think about a glass of water? Oops, let me bend the camera a little bit. Think about a glass of water, and when you put ice in that water. So I have a little container of ice here. Put some ice in. As you can see, the ice is floating on top of the water. That shows us that ice is less dense than the water inside. We can also think about a rubber duck. I'm sure some of you might have some rubber ducks or little kitty toys lying around, and all you have to do, I'm just going to take some of this ice back out. Think about your rubber duck when you're in the bathtub. Does it usually float on top of the water, or does it usually sink to the bottom of your bathtub? It usually floats. That's because this rubber duck is less dense than the water inside. Another way you can think about density is milk. So maybe your parents or grandparents own a farm, and you have dairy cows, and you're going to take the milk from the cow, and then you have to scrape the cream off the top of the milk. So that way you can drink it. You can drink it with the cream, but most people prefer the cream to be removed first. So the cream lays on top of the milk, and that shows us that the cream is less dense. I know I showed you a couple of examples of what less dense than water looks like, or less dense than milk. So I also have these two coins here, and I'm just going to drop them into the water. As you can already see, they went straight to the bottom. So that shows those coins are more dense than water, so they float to the bottom. So objects that are less dense will be above other objects that are more dense. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about in today's experiment and activity. As you can see how density works with just those few things. And you may be asking yourself, why is density important to me? Well, if you think about it, farmers need to know how to use density. And also, if you're going to, maybe you make hot air balloons. You want your hot air balloon to go up in the air. If it doesn't go in the air, it will just crash. So density is important, and it's all around in the world around us. And without knowing how products work, or without knowing how density works, your job could be affected by it. So today we're going to do an experiment. This is called the rainbow jar experiment. So some things you're going to need. This experiment is made for the sizing will be made for an 8-ounce jar. I'm going to use a larger jar so that way you guys can see it better. Yours will be able to put the lid on, should be able to put the lid on, so you can use an 8-ounce mason jar, put the lid on it, and then you can have your rainbow to go with you. So first, you want to start by laying down some napkins. I already have them laid down, but I did get them wet already. I'm going to lay down another layer. Okay, lay down another layer of that. You'll need Dawn dish soap, so I got that here. You'll need corn syrup, olive oil, and rubbing alcohol. You'll also need blue, green, and red food coloring for this experiment, and also some water. To make this easier, I have 3 bowls. Make sure you get 3 bowls that you don't mind getting dirty. They are washable, but just so you don't get in trouble. And also 3 spoons. And then measuring wise, you'll want a tablespoon. So a tablespoon is TBS. Sometimes it gets confused with TSP, but make sure you have TBS. And a 1/4 cup. 1/4. If you don't have a 1/4 cup, you can use a 1/2 cup and cut that in half. So 1/4 of a cup is 1/2 of a cup. A 1/2 of a 1/2 cup, sorry. That's confusing. I also have 2 tablespoons just in case one gets dirty, so that way it's easier for me to be able to move materials around easily. So with knowing those materials, I was just going to see maybe if you guys want to write down some predictions of what you think is going to happen. Do you think the corn syrup is going to fall to the bottom? Do you think that the Dawn dish soap will be to the top, middle? So just write down those predictions. I think I'm going to write down some here. I feel like corn syrup, since it's thicker, will fall to the bottom. So I'm going to write corn syrup. Yep, corn syrup. Yep. Syrup fall to bottom. What else do I have here? Olive oil might be next. So just write down some general predictions that you have about the experiment. It's always important to make predictions. Making predictions helps you get excited about the experiment, helps you think about it. So think about it before doing it. Think about density, the topic we've just talked about. How would these materials vary and where they land in the jar? So we talked about water and milk. So would water fall to the bottom, would milk rise to the top? Those kinds of things. Just kind of think about those and then write them down. Rubbing alcohol, I'm going to say towards the top. Okay, so once you have those predictions down, we'll begin the experiment. Oops. It's always important to make sure you have the materials laid out before you begin an experiment, just because it keeps you from running around the house like crazy, grabbing different things, and you might not have all the materials before unless you set them out. And another important thing is, if you're doing this experiment, make sure you do it with an adult, and make sure you have napkins down. If you're allergic to the materials, maybe have someone else mix it for you. You can wear rubber gloves, an apron, stuff like that to keep you safe. And all this stuff here can be easily just dumped down the drain with water and stuff, but maybe your parents don't want you dumping that down the drain, so maybe you have a waste container that you can use. And also, it's nice to keep baby wipes on hand, so that way you can just clean it right up, throw all the stuff away, and you'll have your jar forever. Alright, so let's begin the experiment. So first, just take any cup you have, and you want to pour 1/4 of a cup, so that's this one, 1/4 of corn syrup into the bowl. So you don't want to pour it directly into your jar yet. You just want to pour it into this bowl. So I'm going to measure that out. It will be sticky if you don't have gloves, just because it's corn syrup, and corn syrup is sticky. Alright, so you want to get 1/4 of a cup. Ooh, look at that move. Alright, and then you're just going to pour it into there, into your bowl. Nice thing about these experiments are sometimes you really wouldn't be messing around with these types of liquids and materials. So whenever you're doing an experiment like this, it's exciting to see how these materials work with each other and just how they are on their own too. Alright, so once you get that, make sure you lay the used measuring cup onto the napkin. You don't want to let it lay on the table. You can scrub it up, but just to keep things clean, we'll put it there. So then what you want to do for this next step, make sure you put the lid back on it. You won't be needing this corn syrup anymore, so you can just set that aside. So you want to take a drop of blue food coloring, 1 drop. If you squeeze it too hard, it will come out really fast. So 1 drop just falls right to the top. And then you want to take 1 drop of red. Plop that in. I'll show you guys that up close. So as you can see, got both colors there. And then what you're going to do, make sure you have those 3 spoons on hand, and you just want to take one of them and really mix that together. You can see whenever you start mixing, it's turning purple. So if you think about our rainbow, we have, most people say Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. So we're going to be working our way up from the bottom. So this would be our violet color, or red, our purple color of the rainbow. It's actually pretty, really pretty whenever you mix it all together. So now you want to carefully pour this into your jar, the bottom of it. You might want some assistance whenever you're doing this, so it's great to have maybe an older sibling, parent, or guardian around. I like to do these kinds of stuff with my cousins. They're just fun. Yep, make sure you get it all in the jar. You can even, if you want to use a bigger container, you can double the recipe, or you can even cut it in another half if you need it for a smaller container. Alright, so then just sit this aside too onto the napkin. And then the next thing you're going to do is you need, let me show you what this looks like. So we just have the purple. Next thing you're going to need is your Dawn dish soap. So you want to pour 5 of these tablespoons into the jar. So that's 5 TBS, not TSP. It can be confusing, so I'm just making that obvious to you guys. So let's see if we have here. Alright, 1. You can pour this directly on top of the purple. 1. 2. 3. 4. And then 5. That's my last one here. Okay. That would be our second layer. So right now we have violet and blue. That's the bottom part of the rainbow. And just set that one aside. There you guys go, if you can see it. Looks really pretty. Alright, so now what you want to do is you want to take another bowl. So once again, I'm using these old bowls. And I'm going to take, I'm going to pour 3 tablespoons of water into this bowl. So I'm going to use this glass of water, my other tablespoon. Try to get 3. 1, 2, and 3. So I just poured 3 tablespoons of water into this bowl. Oops. And then I'm going to take 1 drop of green food coloring, plop that into my water. 1's enough. It mixes really well with the water, see? And then I have another spoon. Give it a good stir. Oh, it's a nice green there. Alright. And then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to carefully pour this green liquid on top of the blue. Ooh. It's okay if it gets a little bit sudsy and it looks like it's going down through, but it will raise up above the blue. So now we have, you can see the purple, the blue, and then the green on top. Very good. Alright. And now we're on to the next step. Oops. So if you have olive oil, you're also going to need 3 tablespoons of that. So we're going to pour our 3 tablespoons of olive oil, and you can pour that straight in. This one's already yellow, so that would be our next step. We're trying to get a yellow. 1. This one's really cool. Kind of bubbles up in there and looks really cool. Alright, so 2 and 3. Sweet. I'm really loving this, guys. It looks awesome. Alright, you can just sit that one on the napkin too. Make sure you're putting the lids back on to avoid any spilling. Alright, look at that, guys. Now we have a layer of yellow, we have a layer of green, a layer of blue, and purple. So it looks really cool. Alright, next step. You want to take that other bowl you had, and this time we're moving on to the alcohol, rubbing alcohol. It's okay. It's okay to use this. Make sure you have permission. And then you want to take 3 tablespoons. Oops, this one's not even open yet. I'm going to poke a hole in the top. Brand new, guys. Just for you. Alright, and we want to take 3 tablespoons. So it's okay to reuse your tablespoons. So you got 1, 2, and 3. Alright. This time, we're going to take a red food coloring. Sorry about that. Red food coloring. And we're going to pour 1 drop in. Kind of hard to see with a red bowl. And then we're just going to mix it all up, just like we did the water and all the other ones. Mix it in, mix, mix, mix. And then once you get that mixed in, make sure you're keeping everything on the napkin. And you want to pour your red into the top. Alright, guys. It's going to go, whenever you initially pour it in, it'll fall below the other ones. Then you can see it. It's rising to the top. It might take a few seconds. It might be cool to watch that too. So you can see how it's bubbling up through the olive oil. So once that gets back up to the top, I'll wait a few seconds. It'll be on top of the olive oil. So now I think we can make some observations about our experiment here. So if you have a tablet or something, you can write these down. I just write observations at the top, and then I can mark down what I think, what I see happening here. So if we think back to our predictions, I wrote that I thought that the corn syrup would fall to the bottom. So there it is on the bottom. So I'm going to say, okay, corn syrup on bottom. That's so exciting whenever you predict something and then it actually happens. And then the dish soap is right in the middle. You see it there, that blue line? So we're going to say dish soap in middle. Alright. It's taken our rubbing alcohol a little bit of time to get to the top. So, but we know that would be on top. On top. And of course, the most obvious observation we can make about this is that it formed a rainbow. So we made a rainbow. That's so exciting. If we're thinking about density on this, we can obviously say that the corn syrup was much more dense than all these other materials. It's the one that's on the bottom. It's not going up and down. If I would have mixed it, if other materials would have been less dense than, more dense than it, it would have fell completely to the bottom. So we can tell by where they're at which one's more dense, which one's less dense than the other. Yep. Alright, so let's think about density again. Let's refer back to our notes. So we talked about density. And density is the mixing of different materials into one space. So if you think about it, we mixed all these materials into this one space to see which ones were more dense and less dense than the other. If we wanted to, we could do some calculations to figure out mass divided by volume to figure out how density is measured. So this experiment was a lot of fun, and it helps us think about density in the world around us. If we think about the water experiment, the ice, the rubber duck, everything. Farmers use density, people use density in everyday lives. People use density for their jobs, and it's very important. And I'm so excited that we got to share this awesome experience together. Make sure you share this with your friends, family. It's a great family activity. I did this with my cousin a couple weeks ago, and she absolutely loved it. So just share this experiment, have fun while doing it, and have fun learning about density. It's so important, and it can be so much fun to learn about. Thank you.